Hello, everybody. This is the ALS United Mid-Atlantic Goals podcast, where we share different perspectives about ALS, from people who are living with ALS to caregivers, staff here at ALS United Mid-Atlantic, researchers, and more, to talk about the different things involved with ALS. And we want to address all the different angles about this disease so that you can be educated, you can be involved, and you can be empowered. Today, I'm excited to talk with one of our ALS United Mid-Atlantic social workers, my good friend, Jayne Etskovitz. Jayne's been with ALS United Mid-Atlantic for many years. She has cared for hundreds of people with ALS in one way or another, has a huge caseload as a social worker, but she approaches each person for who they are as a person. Nobody here is a number. We have a great personal connection with those who are living with ALS and their families and caregivers, and Jayne's going to talk a bit about that, the support groups that she helps run, and her relationship with the whole team. So, Jayne, thanks for talking today.
Well, thank you for having me, Tony.
So before I get into some of the work here, how long have you been working in social work?
Many years, too many for me to recall. But I would say well over 25 years.
I appreciate that because you bring a lot of experience to the role. And what has changed about how you approach caring for people? Is it the same as ever because it's really just that human connection, or are there new things now than how you may have worked in that role before?
I think that I continue to do the same thing that I've done year after year, being a good listener, being empathetic, treating each person as a human. And then with experience, you learn more about the resources and services and how to interact with people throughout this journey.
And social work isn't always the most thought about or glamorous role, I think, but I think it's so important, especially for a disease like ALS. What is the value of social work? And again, not just for ALS.
Well, I think the value of a social worker is having somebody on your team. A really good social worker is someone that is with you, that hears you, and that doesn't see the disability or the diagnosis as who you are. You were a person before you had ALS. You were a person before you had a stroke. You had a family, you had a life, you had a career. So seeing the person as an individual is very key, and being empathetic and a good listener.
And you are a person beyond being a social worker too, because you have a really interesting background, including that you were a figure skater, right?
That's right.
And that means you have the skills to skate around all of the challenges of things like health insurance, correct?
That's exactly right. That's one of the greatest challenges that I can see over the years is the constant changing of healthcare. And being on top of what's out there, what's the best for our patients, empowering our patients to get the education and the knowledge so that they can pick the best insurance for themselves and their loved one.
Yeah, I imagine one of the things that you and our team do is not give people the answers, but help them know what questions to ask.
Exactly. It's called advocacy. It's called helping people to be their own best advocate for not only themselves, but for their loved ones and their family. And it's a very challenging job. Some people have never been in the medical field to know what questions to ask. So, my goal is to provide a safe space, to provide support, to provide information, to provide resources to help people navigate this unknown journey.
Like you said, an unknown journey. And I think most of the people you see don't know what to expect. They don't have ALS in their lives, right?
Right. Or they've never been a caregiver. So, and they've never been involved in the medical community such as this. So understanding their benefits, understanding who to talk to, understanding and anticipating each day that something can change is very challenging.
Right. I really appreciate that. So what are the first things that you do when you are connected with a person with ALS here?
So one of the unique things about ALS United Mid-Atlantic is that any time that a patient registers with us, whether it be through a fellow social worker, whether it be through the community or a clinic, they are assigned a social worker. not a robot, not a machine, not a 1-800, a real live person that they have on this journey with them, someone that they can talk to, someone that can guide them, someone that you can develop a relationship with to help guide them on this journey of finding the resources and information to help them in making a safe plan for their loved one.
So, do you talk with the person with ALS and then their caregiver, or both of them at the same time, or those are different conversations, right?
Those are different conversations. It depends. If a patient lives alone, then they're going to be my primary contact. Sometimes it's the caregiver, developing a rapport and identifying who that person is, learning a little bit about that person, their family dynamics, their support system. Does the caregiver work? Do they have other job responsibilities outside of just the caregiver? Do they have children? And what we're seeing more and more is families taking care of their elderly parents. So we have multi-generational things going on. And how does a caregiver and the patient deal with all these dynamics as their disease changes every day? So developing that relationship with the family, connecting with the family, identifying what their needs are, staying on top of them so that they're making those calls and doing the work that they need to make their job a little easier each day.
And you mentioned that a lot of things have changed, like people taking care of an elderly parent or insurance changes. Do you work with our team of social workers and nurses to kind of go over the whole world of ALS and all those changes so you can have a better
We always, you only can better yourself by getting connected with other people, with this great group of social workers and nurses at ALS United, as well as colleagues of mine outside the community that specialize in Medicare or specialize in different areas, home care. So it's constantly changing and we're constantly learning.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And one of the things that you do that is so valuable is support through these resource groups and support groups. What does that mean for a person with ALS?
We offer 13 support groups, and when I joined the organization 11 years ago, I was asked to take on the caregiver support group. ALS United really values the role of a caregiver by providing just a group just for them, as well as an event once a year for all caregivers. My group meets monthly. We've been doing Zoom before COVID because it's a great opportunity for individuals that work to have the time to come on. For families that are caregivers, they can take maybe a lunch break. So my group's called the Online Lunchtime Caregiver Support Group. And it's a wonderful forum and a space for emotional support, practical advice, shared experiences, a way for people to come together to validate their issues, to validate that they get frustrated, that they're tearful, that they're overwhelmed, and to share this journey with other people. And although many people are at different stages of this journey, what we all have in common is that we are a caregiver and we can learn from one another, because we know the disease changes all the time. And every time you think you're one step ahead of ALS, something else happens the next day. So I really value this group, a wonderful group of people. And I welcome anybody that wants to just try it to come on and see if it's something that might benefit them.
So when you do a support group, is it just freewheeling and you just a very comfortable conversation? Do you have agenda items, or does it change meeting to meeting?
It changes meeting to month to month based on the needs of the people that are part of the group. So we start our group by just introducing one another and where they are in the ALS journey. Some might be newly diagnosed, some might be at the end stage. And we even have a person that's husband passed away who wants to be a value to the group. And she stays on to help people if they have any questions regarding what life looks like at the end stage of ALS. Mm-hmm. So it's the group that runs the agenda. And there's always discussion. There's always something that we want to talk about. It's just, and sometimes there's laughter, sometimes there's joking, sometimes there's tears. So that's the beauty of a group. And we know groups are successful. We know with drug and alcohol, people coming together with the same goal. So we know that groups help individuals to reduce their anxiety, their mental health. So they're really a value, and
Yeah,
they're
and
free.
I imagine someone like if I was a caregiver and I was in your group, I could probably message you privately and say, Janie, I'd really love if this week we could talk about this issue, or we could talk about this, but I'm nervous about bringing it up, and then you could do that.
Absolutely. We have a little chat on Zoom. So sometimes people will chat and say, can you review that? Or can you talk about what type of resources might be available for respite care? So we're open to anything. It's a very open forum, and a very safe forum where
Mhm.
people come together because of a common bond.
And I know you've seen a lot of your patients and caregivers at different events. You like to go to the ALS United Walk in Philadelphia. You're at other events we have. So what's it like when you see those people that you see on the computer screen and then you see them in person at this big positive event?
It's wonderful. It's really wonderful to see people outside of this this medical forum, and to see them in social outings, to meet their children, to meet their loved ones. It's just wonderful, and it's one of the joys that I have of seeing people outside, and meeting their wonderful families and caregivers in person.
It must be such an honor and a privilege that you have this special relationship with them and that they bring you into their personal lives in a setting like that. And they want you to meet their family.
Yes, yeah, it's rewarding. It shows this strength of relationships. It shows trust, and it's rewarding. And this job can be challenging, but it also can bring so much joy in meeting such wonderful people on this journey and along the way. It really is. They open their hearts and their most vulnerable times to me. And, it's really a precious gift.
So, what's it like? What have you learned from the other care staff here? We had a recent podcast with Anne and Melissa. We also talked with Gail and Elisa here. They all have different experiences. What do you learn from the rest of the team here at ALS United?
It's a very compassionate, empathetic, group of wonderful people that come together for the common goal of helping our families on this journey. And I've learned so much from each discipline and incorporate that and try to collaborate with everybody. And that's the beauty of this multidisciplinary type of approach.
Great. Now let's have some fun with some of the things you've done here. Because
Okay.
you've been to a lot of events. You've been to
Yeah.
our events at Longwood Gardens. You've been to the ALS United Walk. You've been to advocacy. You've been to so many things. I see your face a lot in our pictures. At Help and Hope recently. What are some of your favorite events that we have here at ALS United?
I think one of my favorite events is Caregiver Skills Day. Again, taking and personally, I was a caretaker, so using my own personal experiences and journeys and sharing that and understanding what these people go through is a wonderful day to meet people who open up to me, and then to have a day of pampering with them. I love that event. Longwood Gardens is a beautiful day. It's a hectic day, well attended, and getting to meet such wonderful people and people so happy to be together. I just love that event. Of course, everybody loves the mushroom soup, so can't go to Longwood Gardens without that. I think the walk is exciting. Each year to see the different families, families that have lost people that continue to do this, and new families that are on the journey together. So I love the holiday party, seeing people and their grandchildren and extended family dancing, and celebrating. So I love all of the events and being outside of that medical community where people can socialize and just not focus on the ALS.
And also just not focus on fundraising. We're a nonprofit.
Yes.
We have to raise money, and please join us at alsmidatlantic.org. But all the events you mentioned, only one of those was a fundraiser. Most of the events we have are patient and family related, like the holiday party and caregiver skill day. That's our mission.
Yes, yes, and it's such a beautiful way of working with our patients and families, and giving them the opportunity to be around other people and outside of the caring and that they endure day in and day out with this disease.
And you mentioned that you've had people in your group who have lost somebody to ALS and they wanted to stay involved. I imagine that if someone has lost someone to ALS, like I lost my grandfather, everyone has a connection. They can still reach out to you. They can still get some support and help even after they've lost a loved one to ALS.
Yeah, I mean, some of our patients are with us for many years. So we go through the journey with them. Some of them have gotten remarried. Some of them have become grandparents. So many, memories go along the way. And yes, I have many families that I'm still connected with after they've lost their loved ones because we all share this common bond. And I always welcome them to reach out to me if they're having a bad day or if they just want to talk or whatever questions they might have.
I always feel really positive when I've seen someone who I know they lost a spouse or another family member to ALS and it was really hard and they stayed with us. But then I see them again years later and I see that like they're doing well, maybe something well with work or their child is just graduated college. It's great to see that they still have a lot of joy in life even after going through something like this.
Yeah, you hold on to those memories. They're never taken away, but you hope that you have the skills and the fortitude to move forward. And for some families, it's giving back to the community, whether it be, advocacy in Washington or being a visiting volunteer or volunteering at at an event. So, yes, it is always nice to see those families and people at these events.
So going through ALS with someone like you, a social worker, that helps to develop skills to deal with loss, right? It helps them to have skills to deal with life beyond ALS then.
Yeah, it makes you, sometimes until we're in this situation, do we really recognize our strength and
Mhm.
our ability to do things that we never knew we would be forced to do, but we have to do. So yes, it makes you stronger and see life in a different way, as well as for children that are part of this. It just gives you the tools and the strength and to be able to go through other obstacles in life and find joy again and happiness again.
I feel like working here and working with people like you, I've become a better listener and more empathetic. Do you think that dealing with ALS and being in these resource groups and being a social worker helps you personally be a better listener and friend to others?
Yes, absolutely. It makes you appreciate life. It makes you try to be more in the moment. We're not perfect. Sometimes I'll talk to someone and reflect and say, okay, be more mindful of listening and not giving them all your resources at one time, trying to be sensitive to being where they're at. So there's always learning and growth going on.
So let's go back to what you said earlier, which is you help people know how to advocate for themselves, what questions to ask. If I were to go to a clinic as a caregiver, for example, what are some questions that you might recommend that I ask a doctor or social worker just to help myself?
Well, it depends on what stage you are too. So let's say you're newly diagnosed, am I going to need any kind of home modifications? Is this the time that I begin to look at my house? My main bathroom and bedroom are on the second floor, and I have 2 flights of steps. Is this the time for me to connect with someone at ALS United Mid Atlantic for accessibility? Do I want to ask my physical and occupational therapist? I'm struggling with getting my loved one out of bed. Are there any devices or any mechanisms that are out there that I can use to strengthen or to make that transfer easier? I'm having difficulty transporting my loved one to clinic. Are there any, is there transportation available? Questions to ask the team. Are we going to have to look at a wheelchair down the road? Does my insurance cover this? Who's going to pay for this? If I don't have the insurance, where am I going to get the equipment that I need? So it's a case by case. And I always try to encourage families to advocate for questions that they might have. And no question is too silly or not, don't be afraid to ask. You are your loved one's best advocate.
Speaking of loved ones, when my grandfather had ALS, it was a big strain on the family. My grandmother didn't want to deal with that diagnosis. It was really hard for her to accept it. And she loved my grandfather dearly, but it was just, it's a hard thing to accept. And so my dad had siblings, and, he approached it one way and someone else might approach it another way. And so you can't fix family dynamics, but I imagine you have situations where someone can say, hey, I'm doing this. How do I talk to my sister or brother or uncle and about this as well? Or is it okay for people to come to you and say, how do I deal with this? What can I do to make this better?
Yes, sometimes people come to us with that, and sometimes we see it in just the dynamics of families without even having to be told that this is happening. So we want to be united. We want what's best for the patient. So sometimes we can't fix these dynamics that were broken before the diagnosis, but we try to identify one person that's the spokesperson for the family. Sometimes we have to have a family meeting. Sometimes Gail and a social worker will go out to the home. Sometimes professional counseling. Sometimes someone in the multidisciplinary team could be that person to help or guide. So, yes, we see that a lot.
And I imagine once they see you, it can help ease some of those stresses and tensions, right? Like, I know if my family had the resources that we provide now during that time, their stress levels would have gone down tremendously. Just the in-home
Right,
care, for example, would have helped so much. So I
right.
imagine you have seen families who go through this diagnosis, and when they meet with you and Gail and the team, they can have a lot of that stress relieved.
We hope so, because we've seen it and with other families, and we can be empathetic to it. We can understand it. We can acknowledge it. We can validate it and try to move on and teach them the tools and the skills to be the best caregivers that they can. I think that people don't sometimes know how to be a caregiver, or families don't know what questions to ask, or friends don't know what to do because we're not really a society. We all want to do things ourselves. So we'll be willing to open and ask for help. That's very hard for people. Understanding when you need help, and trying to use everybody in the family or outside the family, informal supports, to help you on this journey. It's an expensive disease, and financially it can be very challenging. Resources are challenging to get, so sometimes we have to look outside the box.
Speaking of financially challenging, I was talking with someone who had lost someone to ALS, and it was a short diagnosis, less than 2 years, I believe, that the person was living with it. And they said that in their family, they didn't really feel like reaching out to us for help during that time because they had the means. They like, oh, we could probably handle it. And I imagine you're happy with how everyone wants to handle things. You're not going to force anyone to do anything. But even if someone feels like they can financially handle it, it's still better to ask for help than to put that burden on your own shoulders.
Exactly. Or to have your feelings validated. So if your financial concerns aren't an issue, perhaps being around other people that are on the journey and seeing what it's like and getting that emotional support by just maybe going to a group, just tasting whatever's out there. We welcome everybody.
Yeah. So let's do one more fun thing here, because we're talking
Okay.
about some very serious things. Last
Okay.
year in 2024, we celebrated our 40-year partnership with the Philadelphia Phillies. I think you're a bit of a Philadelphia sports fan, right?
I am. I am.
So you've been with us for many years now, and you've seen that relationship between the Phillies and our ALS patients and families. What does that mean to you as a social worker to see that connection between the Phillies and ALS?
It was great. I've never worked in an organization, before this, where there was a connection such as the Philadelphia Phillies. And it really, it means a lot more to me to be a Philadelphia fan, to see the support that they provide to our patients and families, and seeing our patients and families, either they're walking or in a wheelchair attending these events, and what the Philadelphia Phillies do for our families who are Philadelphia fans. It's really inspiring. And, it's just, it's wonderful. And I have a different sense of the Philadelphia Phillies now. I really do. More meaningful to me because of their outreach with us.
It's really amazing to see that it's not just that they do these things, but it's so genuine that it's
Yes.
part of their culture. And I've gone to events and I had my ALS stuff on, and they will say, "Oh, I know you, and here's my history here, or my own personal history." And I don't know anyone that has that experience with any other sports team.
No, not at all. And they've just been so gracious, not just the players, but the people behind the scenes at the Phillies, always trying to accommodate our patients and make that, that moment so special. And for many of the patients, going to a Phillies game when they're diagnosed with ALS might be one of the highlights of their life.
Yeah, 100%, especially since they're
Yeah.
going to be treated so well. And
Yes.
so many other places are not treated well, which is one other thing I should bring up here, because, we're recording this. It's about to be summertime, people going on vacations. If people are interested in going on a summer trip, flying, or whatever they're doing, they can reach out to someone like you and Elisa for like the tips on just how to do that for traveling or going to a
Exactly.
hotel.
Exactly. They can always look on our website. They can reach out to their social worker. They can reach out to Elisa. There's, travel guides on how to travel. I often tell families, if they're traveling, identify like a medical supply company where you're going, whether it be Florida or wherever, in case you need some equipment or you need something to make life a little easier. So there's so many good tips. And we want people to travel. We want people, if they're safe, to be able to live in the moment and live some of the dreams that they have.
Yeah, it's really nice to see people who are able to get to a baseball game for their family, or they're able to go and visit a beach house with their family again because they don't know how often they're going to get to do that. And that might be one of the gifts of ALS. We don't want anyone to have to experience it, but you appreciate the time you have, so you're going to make the most of that time while you can.
Exactly. We hope that everybody can focus on that and not, live in the here and now. It's hard. And try to enjoy and do the things that are meaningful to you.
Well, for the here and now, if people are interested in learning more, they want to reach out to you, they want to connect, maybe learn more about your resource groups, what are the best ways that they can do that?
Well, I think that they can go on to our website
Hmm.
and look at our under patient care services and find out the many resources and programs. They're also welcome to connect with me, Jayne at alsmidatlantic.org, or contact our organization for more details.
Great. And they can go to our new Meet the Care Team page on our website as well at
That's right.
alsmidatlantic.org. And you'll see that our care team is all real people. with real connections to ALS and to our families. And when you contact us, you're going to be talking to someone like Jayne, not just some computer.
Right, right, right. It's funny. Some people who I've never met look on the website and they're like, that's the girl I'm talking to. That's what she looks like. That's Jayne. I'm going to call her. So, yeah, I love that. And that there's a picture next to our title, which is great.
Well, you deserve it. You've been in so many pictures, so it's easy to find pictures of you. Sometimes with other people, when I'm working on our website, it's harder to find pictures. Like, can we get one with so-and-so? But you're at so many events. So if you attend an ALS United Mid-Atlantic event, whether it's the walk or it's Longwood Gardens or it's Caregivers Day, there's a very good chance you're going to be seeing Jayne Etskovitz, and you're going to be glad you did.
Yeah, probably hear me too.
You'll recognize the voice probably.
Right.
And Jayne, thank you so much for sharing your voice on our podcast today. If you're listening, and obviously you hear my voice, you are listening, please visit our website at alsmidatlantic.org to learn about our events, how to volunteer, advocate, donate, and how to reach out for the care services you need. Jayne, thanks so much, and I am excited to continue to work with you for our families.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you to the wonderful group of social workers at ALS United. It is Social Work Month, and I just want to do a shout out to all the wonderful social workers outside of our organization who shine a light every day on making the world a little better. So,
well, thanks. You're one of those people. You do make our families' lives better. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. Have a good day.